Hi everyone, welcome to ThriverTV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. And today's ThriverTV episode is an awesome topic. Last week I put it to the community and I said, what would you like in this week's Q&A show? And from 3 forums, the most prevalent question was, what is self-love? And what an awesome question. This is so dear to my heart. So what is self-love? That's the $1 million question. It totally is. So I just want to start off by a contribution that Sandra put up on the Facebook page, and it was this. I was always taught that to love myself and put myself first was selfish. You love others and give everything to others, so consequently I gave myself away. So I'd like to hear the difference between being selfless and selfish. So, you know, that's just a huge belief that we were taught and has been taught for a long time, because only recently has self-love not been demonized. And it was demonized in such a way that we thought that being self-loving was narcissistic or it was uncaring towards others, which is sort of really quite crazy, because what we didn't realize was that when we were giving love to get love, it's really quite precarious, because if somebody else wasn't supplying us with love and we weren't filling ourselves, then we were going to run out of love anyway to be loving to others. So it's all pretty nutty. And also to Jennifer, this was her contribution. She said, I am practicing self-care with daily meditation. I've been doing it for the past 4 years, and sometimes I feel guilty for taking extra time away from my husband. I still meditate first thing every morning. Is there such a thing as too much self-care? Now, Jennifer, I'm sure, and I'm sure your husband would tell you this if you've talked to him about this, I'm sure that he's really, really happy to miss you for a few minutes or half an hour every morning when you're showing up as a full, happy, conscious person who's really happy and loving, rather than being disconnected and grumpy and not self-partnered and then projecting that onto him. So it's so interesting, isn't it, that when we've had inner programming, which is all to do with, I have to give all of myself to others in order to be a loving person. I promise you, when you actually really get into your body and you find the deep DNA belief systems on that, it's really quite interesting that it does come back to self, but not in a narcissistic way. It's been a childhood programming all about that if I'm not looking after others, well then they're not going to be safe and loving, and I can't be safe and loved and I can't survive. I promise you that's actually at the deepest levels what it's all about. But on a realistic human level, of course your husband wants you to be happy and healthy and be a healthy person showing up in the relationship. That is, if he's a happy, healthy, conscious person. Narcissists don't like, I'm not saying your husband's a narcissist at all, but narcissists don't like that. They don't like people being whole at all. So, you know, fortunately, when we become conscious, we really realize that the giving love to get love from others model is really very doomed. You know, it's talked about in airplanes all the time that if the cabin loses oxygen, to put the oxygen mask on yourself first in order to give it to others, because if we don't, well then we can't even look after others in the first place. And what we haven't, when we get conscious, we realize on a quantum level that everything's interconnected. And what that means is that people can only reflect back to us treatment of ourselves. It is identical of the treatment that we give to ourselves. It's just such a human false belief that people treat us the way that people should treat us the way that we treat others. No. People don't treat you the way that you profess to treat others. They actually treat you in accordance with how you feel about and how you treat yourselves. So in other words, how you love yourself. So if we have a low vibration of self-love, what will happen is we will be attracted to and attractive to people on a very similar vibration of self-love. And then what happens is people are going to start treating us exactly how they actually really feel about themselves. And the treatment that we accept from them is identical to what we really feel about ourselves. And then if we're not being all righteous in a victim model, we can realize that. But if we are in a righteous victim model and we stand there and we say, well, this person treats me disgracefully despite the fact that I treat them so lovingly, you haven't woken up to the fact that giving to get is not love. It's actually conditional love. It's codependent love. It's love that's attachment and obsession. And it's not real love, it's false love. And if we're not loving ourselves, then we're doing false love. And we need to start getting really honest about that if we want to get out of that. So Amber shared this. Amber said, intellectually I understand it, but emotionally I struggle to get there. So loneliness still creeps in and tears fall. Truly believing in self-worth, not settling, and emotionally understanding that without self-love, that life will give us another flavour of the same seems insurmountable at times. And Amber, I get it. You know, I know that's really painful when we start waking up and we go, well, I really understand that life's not going to give me any of a higher vibrational level of the love that I have for myself. But Amber, the truth is that, you know, if we decide to be dismayed by that, and if we decide to not do that and not find the quantum ways to do that, well, then we're stuck. And we're still hoping that somebody's going to come and rescue us, but they don't come and rescue us. You know, we have to up-level ourselves. But I promise you, Amber, you know, when you get conscious and you find the ways to do this, you'll love it, because we really realize that without self-love, nothing gratifies us, nothing feels like wholeness, and nothing feels like well-being. Everything is just a quick fix that never holds. So there was only us in this equation anyway. Now, this is a really good point from Jeanette, which is going to help cover off what I just said. And Jeanette says, is it possible to gain enough self-love that you never feel an attachment to anyone? If so, how? I'm forever seeing debates about how a person couldn't possibly love someone with at least some level of attachment. Then I see writings about how we shouldn't attach ourselves to anyone or anything. Is there healthy attachment as opposed to unhealthy attachment? And I think I'm getting there with the understanding, but I'm still a tad confused. It is really confusing until you start to get it. I wanted to share with you, I wrote, there was last week's article about, you know, is it possible to love a narcissist? And I was talking all about conditional and unconditional love and exactly really what this is about. And, you know, one of the ladies that I shared about, who's actually a personal friend, and she models unconditional love with her soulmate to the most delicious levels of authenticity. And she has come from backgrounds of narcissistic abuse, etc., and she reached this level in her 40s. And the level of love she has for him, and he's divine. They've got a beautiful relationship. Her level of love for him is so pure that what she says, and it's true, that if somebody came along into his life that could love her more authentically than what she does, she loves him so much she would bless him to go with that person. Wow. Now she means it. This is the truth of the purity of her love. So now they are incredibly connected. So no, it's not detachment. Detachment's not love. What she is she is in fully heart, soul, and everything, but she is being loving. She's not needing him to get herself. She already is love. So the truth of the matter is, if he was to go out of her experience, of course it would be devastating, but she already is love. That's why she's able to connect fully and love fully without the fear of loss, because if she loses him, she doesn't lose herself, she doesn't lose love. So I hope that that really can help explain that level of pure love that we can get to when we are being love, when we truly, and we can't be love until we're loving ourselves. So, and if we're not at that level, then the love that we're going to be doing is attachment. That's not connection, that's not oneness. There's no freedom in that. You know, attachment is all about conditional love. I will love you if you are being this set of conditions for me in order to feel better about myself. That's not true love, that's attachment. So this is the deal in a nutshell. The level of love that we have for ourselves is going to be exactly the level of love that we receive and we accept in our life, no more and no less, even if that level of love is really bad. And then what we'll do with that is that if we are receiving bad love and our level of love for ourselves is deficient, then what we're going to do is wrestle with people to try to make them love us better. And we're going to try and force them to love us better, not realizing that this was actually always about loving ourselves better, raising our levels of self-love. So what is self-love? What is it really, and how on earth do we get there? Okay, I want to work backwards with this. I want to work at starting off with what self-love would feel like. To me, self-love is the understanding that I don't have to be perfect in order to be lovable, acceptable, and worthy of love right now by myself and others. That was my hugest revelation about what self-love is. And this is huge for all of us, because unfortunately what happened is we were taught about an outer higher power, and that we were carnal, soiled, no good, and that we had to actually earn love and approval in order to be saved, in order to be accepted, literally, because it was either that or damnation. So what happened is we were taken away from our innate knowing that we are a part of God's self, that we are a part of all of existence, because at the quantum level, separation is a complete impossibility. At the quantum level, we understand that we are interconnected with everything and anything in the physical universe, in all space time, in all space dimensions. There is no separation, there is oneness, that we are literally a part of the God creation particle, simply because we are, simply because we exist. So that means that there is no unworthiness, that we already are that, with nothing to do. We just are. And what that means at the highest level of truth is we're already loved and accepted, and we're worthy simply because we are, and there's nothing to prove. Now, the interesting thing was, because of all of the separation, what happened was birth of ego, birth of false self. And this false self was all about, well, I'm not okay as I am, so therefore I have to create another version of myself. And that version of myself has to be smarter, has to be thinner, has to be better looking, has to be more funny, has to be more accomplished, has to have these credentials, has to be more loving, has to be more self-loving, whatever it is. All of these conditions and requirements that we bought, we believed in them, and we took them on in our inner identity as our essential programming, that I have to be different from who I am in order to be loved and accepted by creation, by God, by others, and by myself. Now, the problem is with a false self is it is not based in any real energetic truth. So it's insatiable. It's a bottomless pit. It will never be appeased. It doesn't matter what you do, what you achieve, what you get, what state you reach, how good a meditator you are, how loving you are, how many charities you donate to, how much you beat and whip yourself into shape. It doesn't matter what you get. You will never, ever get wholeness, and you will never feel good enough because it's a false self. It never works that way. So we've all been chasing our tail, saying, well, how do I get more self-loving? And even that's a bigger requirement. When the truth is, when we understand the egoic madness of all of this ridiculous illusion of having to be different than what we actually are in order to be worthy and lovable, we realize that self-improvement is not a requirement. It's an expansion. It's a way to become more joyful, more whole, more free. It has nothing to do with requirement, because we're loved and accepted and we're okay right now, exactly how we are, imperfectly perfect. We're perfect. And that's love. That's self-love. So that's huge. You know, that is huge. And that really changes everything for us, because if we haven't stopped this conditional self-love, we're in hell. Hell's not a place, it's a state. And we want to get to the state of heaven, which is love, which is authenticity. And it's about waking up. So when we wake up, there's lots of things that we start doing. Okay, we stop believing that we've been loving purely when we've been getting lack of love back, and we've been wrestling and fighting with that, trying to force people to love us better. We stop the illusions of believing that I was so loving and I was a victim and they did this to me. We drop that. We realise that's not the truth. We stop holding people responsible for loving us, and we stop being needy for their love, and we start providing it for ourselves. And we start realising that we cannot badger, criticise, bully, blame, guilt, harass, or abuse ourselves into perfection. Just take on what I just said then, because you're going to realise how true that is. And we realise that nobody has ever treated us worse than the way we've been treating ourselves with those conditions. And then, of course, we've been having them reflect back conditional love to us, and we've been showing up as conditional love to them. I will love you if. It wasn't love, because we weren't loving ourselves. So we start realizing that the way we love ourselves is to connect to ourselves as a parent would to a child that they adore, that they are devoted to. And would we, with that child, would we make impossible conditional demands and withhold love and say, I will love you if you eventually get to that, and then keep moving the bar? Would we do that? Or would we just adore and love this child as they are right now? I think you know the answer to that question. So why have we been doing that to ourselves? Why have we been doing that? And what would happen to that child if we withheld love and kept raising the bar and kept saying, well, I will actually love you if you get to that level, and the child never could? What would happen to that child? That child would be depressed, anxious, manic, have post-traumatic stress disorder. Are you getting the picture? Of course that child will be like that. That's what we've been doing to ourselves. Nobody else is doing it. They're just reflecting back to us what we're already doing. We're doing it. We can stop that. So how do we stop that? We start talking to ourselves and loving ourselves as we would a child we adore right now unconditionally, just because we love them and just because they exist. That's actually how creation and God feels about us, not conditions. And we need to model the truth of how creation existence feels about us, that we are lovable and worthy of love beyond measure simply because we exist. That's how we need to start treating ourselves. And then that's how we're going to start showing up in life. A person that feels whole and worthy and complete right now without conditions, and then knowing that expansion and improvement is just fun and great. It's not a requirement in order to be saved from damnation. Changes everything. So I just want to share with you what one of the ladies, she posted, and I'll just get down to it. And Martha, she said, what are some practical steps I can take to facilitate this? And I just want to say to you, Martha, and everybody, that practical steps can be really tough, because when we've got unconscious inner trauma programming that is pointing us in the wrong direction, it is so hard to cognitively, practically break through that. And in fact, in my experience with myself and helping thousands of people since 2007, I've really found that people who have high trauma content that have been narcissistically abused often can't do that. They've got to work directly on their subconscious to make the changes. And then they can start implementing the things that match their inner identity after doing that. Otherwise, they're just battling with themselves. But anyway, I want to share with you what Sylvia shared. And Sylvia does a lot of great shares, and this is another one. And she says here, I so relate to this too. I know you might. I was always very hard on myself, but I would tolerate horrific abuse, control, and manipulation from others. Hello, that's what we do when we're doing it to ourselves. I would make allowances and excuses for others, but yet judge myself harshly. And that's because we're actually trying to get them to fix us instead of doing it. I was a hard taskmaster to myself, setting unrealistic standards and expectations to which I felt I had to live up to. Self-love for me has been letting go of all of that. Booyah! Absolutely, yeah, it's it. That's what self-love is, stopping it. I accept all of myself now, warts and all, absolutely. I've just had something flick up here in the way, get out, okay? I'm not perfect and that's okay. This is everything I've been talking about. And it was really funny, I was writing this even before Sylvia's post came up, but it's spot on. I don't drive myself relentlessly the way I used to. It's also about not having to be liked or approved of. Oh my God, that is freedom. When you love and approve of yourself, it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't agree. It's like, I already am. Doesn't matter. Okay, what I think of me is the only opinion I worry about. I'm nice to me now. I give myself compliments and encouragement. I love that. You know, I can't tell you how many times a day I would say to myself, Melanie, you're doing a great job. I love you. I'm so proud of you. That's my constant self-talk. Oh my God, the self-talk I used to have, horrendous. I'm one of my biggest fans. Perfect, Sylvia, so you should be. And it is truly miraculous how differently people treat me as a result. That's the quantum field, so within, so without. The transformation in my life has been magical. I also feel so much more love for others, don't we, when we're full? It's overflowing. And the great thing is we don't need it back. You know, when we're just loving others from our overflow, it doesn't matter if they don't give it back. We're just being love. I love that. Okay, rather than the resentment I used to feel when I needed approval from them. That's what I was just saying. So the strange thing, all of this resulted from being narcissistically abused. Absolutely, because Sylvia did the inner work. She's a NARP member. She's a NARPer. She works the program. So there are so many positives that have come from this. Yay to loving ourselves. Much love, Sylvia. So thank you, Sylvia, for sharing that, because that's really sort of helped people. So from the practical level, no, it's not about getting massages or your hair done or, you know, or even meditating for 5 minutes every morning. They're supplements. They're really good things that we can do. The truth of what self-love is, it's stopping the conditional judgment and criticism and self-hatred that we've been doing to ourselves because we had modeled to us that I'm never going to be loved and worthy, and I can't have salvation, I can't have wholeness unless I'm approved of. It's rubbish. You are lovable and worthy no matter what state you're in right now. And then everything you do from that is a bonus. So I hope that's really helped. And if you enjoy my shows, I would love you to subscribe to ThriverTV and to like and comment. And also too, if you haven't as yet got onto my free resources and joined in on my website newsletter, I would love you to. And you can do that by clicking the button that appears on this video. And more than anything else, if you are really struggling and you're not healing from narcissistic abuse, I would love you to join me and learn all about my revolutionary method, Quantum Freedom Healing, and the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program that has already liberated thousands of people from over 50 different countries from narcissistic abuse. And you can do that by joining in my next 3-hour seminar, my teleclass, and you can do that by clicking the button that appears as well. So that's it from me until the next video, and lots of love, everybody. Bye-bye. Keep smiling and keep thriving, because there is nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.